I grew up in Chicago, Illinois. In college, the main thing I was interested in was having a good time. But I got very serious when I went to medical school. I got my master's degree at the same time I got my MD, working on the biochemistry of heart muscle. And then later on, I had major influences when I was at the Mayo Clinic. Dr. W. Proctor Harvey for my cardiology training. He really impacted me. I changed my career aspirations from that of being a research biochemist to becoming a teacher. He was like the Sherlock Holmes of medicine. He could go to the bedside using his hands and his eyes and his stethoscope, make just about any diagnosis you can imagine. And I was just intrigued by that. In fact, that's how I got the idea for Harvey. He used to mimic heart sounds all the time, lup, lup, that type of thing. And I said, I'm going to build a simulator that will do the same thing and also have the pulses and everything else.
Dr. Gordon would end up at the University of Miami, fulfilling his love of teaching. But he also was a highly respected cardiologist. All the while, the idea of the simulator was never far from his mind.
He used to care for airline pilots who had had a particular health condition. At that time, they were telling him about the flight simulators, so he got the idea of developing a patient that could be used much the same way pilots were trained.
We used to follow the usual principle of see one, do one, teach one. And you know what? That's not the best way to do it. He realized in the 60s, in order to make medical education all that it needs to be, there was a need to bring new technologies. This was a brilliant idea that nobody had had before.
The road to making this mannequin universally accepted was not a smooth one, but Dr. Gordon plowed forward, developing the simulator he named after his mentor, Harvey, even having to negotiate for space.
I was in the smallest little place possible. I took care of the gentleman who was the head veterinarian. So I went to the veterinarian guy and said, do you have an extra room? So he used to walk through the dog lab, true story. That's where we created the first Harvey, back there.
He faced continued skepticism, even from some of his colleagues.
I persisted and kept believing, and I got believers to join me. Then about 1980, there was a piece of land available and we built our first center, and that was beautiful. Then we expanded into emergency care and more nursing education and computer development.
And it wasn't enough just to create Harvey. After all, Dr. Gordon's passion was for teaching.
Dr. Gordon is particularly known for is his ability to develop a comprehensive curriculum to support the simulation technology called UMedic, that not only trained learners, but also evaluated them and gave the instructors the evidence that the learners were indeed learning these skills.
Today, the skepticism is long gone. There is a state-of-the-art education center at UM that proudly bears Dr. Gordon's name, and Harvey is proven the world over as one of the most effective tools in training doctors, nurses, and a particular source of pride for Dr. Gordon, first responders, educating them beyond the old scoop and run practice of years past.
Every day when I drive along and I see a fire rescue unit and I say, look at the impact we're having. What do you mean, scoop and run? Somebody's life may be saved.
Another remarkable accomplishment is his realization that if he was going to create a new way of learning and to disseminate this around the world, that it couldn't just be about Dr. Gordon or the University of Miami. He recruited several colleagues with whom he trained at Georgetown, Duke, and Emory, and twice a year they would get together and create the technology and the curricula.
He's a humble man, but he understood that by bringing the experts in the field, the very best clinicians from all the top universities, Harvard, Stanford, Duke, etc., he would actually be able to embed into his simulator all that knowledge.
Today, the Harvey Group is now known as the Miami Group, and it has over 16 individuals from about 20 institutions from around the world, made up of cardiologists, neurologists, internists, nurses, engineers, and educational psychologists. We continue to meet to develop the curriculum, to test the effectiveness, and to disseminate it worldwide.
Dr. Gordon has left an indelible mark on medical education and training, especially at But for Dr. Gordon, his greatest contribution is helping those who serve and protect our nation.
I was brought up, my father, if he could have, would have worn an Uncle Sam suit to work every day. I am most proud of the fact that we are training the military. This is serious business. And the work they do on the site, they've reduced the mortality and disability tremendously. And we have a part of that. I just can't tell you how that makes me proud.
I've had 30 years to learn from him, but what I admire most is his transformational leadership skills. His refusal to be bound by those who say it can't be done.
What Dr. Gordon has accomplished is that for a young university, because in 1966, the medical school was not even 20 years old, his extraordinary intuition, there is no question in my mind that Michael Gordon is the man who placed the Middle School of Medicine on the map of education for physicians in the United States of America.
It's only been the last decade that people have totally bought into our concept. I'm more well known possibly outside of Miami than in Miami. So this is my hometown. I love it very much. It makes me particularly proud, therefore, to the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce to honor me.
The Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce AXA Advisors Lifetime Achievement Award recipient, Michael S. Gordon.